The Inspired Insights podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered health advice. This podcast is not intended to replace professional medical advice.
Please note that this podcast may contain discussions on sensitive topics such as mental illness, suicide, and substance use. If you are experiencing a behavioral health crisis or need support, please contact the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by calling 988 or visiting www.988lifeline.org.
Soren! Chris, welcome back.
Indeed, indeed.
I would be remiss if we did not draw attention first to our new space.
Yes, new studio, new season.
What do you think of it?
I really like it. Our viewers at home can see all of the decorations that we have up, but let them be assured it is vibey in here.
I know what I'll do. I'll take some pictures and or maybe do a little tour. Maybe I'll do a video tour that we'll plan with this episode. And maybe more to come. Maybe there'll be a craft project.
Indeed, indeed.
On the horizon. The best is still yet to come, right? Yeah, I love this space. I love the openness of it. I love it's just a good vibe.
Indeed. Hopefully better sound quality as well.
We're going to find out one way or the other.
Fingers crossed.
Welcome back. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
I'm excited to kick this new season off. We'll talk in a little bit about what's to come. But yeah, being our first episode of season 3, which, by the way, just sit with that for a second. Like, we've done 20 episodes of this podcast.
A momentous journey it's been.
I mean, really, a year, I think we started recording season 1, just about a year ago.
Mm.
Can you believe that?
It has been quite the journey, but I'm very pleased with its trajectory.
And still, the best is yet to come.
Indeed.
So, I think you and I are on the same page where we want to continue season 3 with what we did in season 2 and offer listeners an inspired insight of the week.
Yes.
With that in mind, would you please honor us with the first inspired insight of season 3?
Wow. What an honor. What a moment of gravitas I've been faced with.
And pressure.
Yes, very high pressure this is. My inspired insight is a commentary on how easy it is to form new relationships. I think I have the tendency to, and a lot of other people, both young and old, have the tendency to expect that forming relationships is a difficult process. And I think that's because of the initial barrier we build up in our heads. We are uncomfortable around unfamiliar people. But once we become comfortable around an individual, even if that just means willing to have a short conversation with them, it is so easy to form a relationship with that person.
Yeah.
And I saw that a lot when I was on seminar in Brazil, and we'll talk more about that.
We'll talk about, because you were, we'll map the timelines out. I love that. And I want to ask you some questions about that insight as well. So thanks for sharing that. At no surprise to you or our listeners, I lean in heavily to Miss Taylor Allison Swift. And I think you gave me the fun fact earlier today that I referenced Taylor in 4 of my inspired insights of season 2.
Preach.
And so why stop now, right? So our listeners know, I just get so much inspiration from who she is as a person as well as her art. And one of the songs that I have been listening to a lot in between the seasons is a song off the Midnight's album called Dear Reader. And in Dear Reader, she gives a lot of inspired insights about just lessons of life and those kind of things. And so my inspired insight for the week comes from the song Dear Reader. And in it, she says, bend when you have to, bend when you can, snap when you have to. And I love that quote because it serves as a reminder to be flexible and to find common ground and compromise, but also be very clear with what you're not willing to bend and when it's time to snap and take action and push back.
Wow. Truly an ever-flowing fountain of wisdom. That
Is she not?
she is.
Taylor, if you're watching.
Praise be.
So I want to get right into this. When season 2 ended, it was just after New Year's. We were both starting some new, preparing ourselves for some new adventures in 2025. And your biggest news was that you were planning on a trip.
Yes.
Want to share a little bit about what you did and where you went?
So when the last episode of season 2 came out, I was in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I went to a month-long camp there with an organization called CISV, with the goal being to like build global friendships in order to ensure global security. The organization was founded after World War II. So it's essentially a peace organization that thrives through the education and connection of young people from across the world.
And for the point of view from our listeners, you've been involved in CISV for years. And what I think I understand is what made this trip to Brazil really special is that this trip was sort of the graduation of all those years of involvement.
Yeah. It was the last possible opportunity for me to engage with CISV. And which is, I found that quite sad, but it was also very rewarding and it was a lovely final send off.
Yeah. And it was 3 weeks.
Yeah. So we were there for, it was like 20 days. And then on top of that, I had like a 3-day after camp where me and a few of the kids from camp hung out in a coastal town.
Yeah. So is by chance your inspired insight for this week about building relationships connected to?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was directly inspired by that trip.
Yeah.
Because one thing that I felt going in was that I am like socially inept. I have a lot of insecurity around my like social incompetence and making other people uncomfortable, or like my inability to form new relationships, right?
Yep.
And what that camp taught me was that once you break the barrier, once you crack the meniscus, it is so easy to build deep bonds with people in a relatively short period of time.
What was the barrier you had to crack?
I think
Or who was the barrier you had to crack?
I think the barrier was eternal, 100%.
100%.
I was just like afraid, and I think I am very concerned about how I'm received because I don't feel as though I'm a typical child, and as a result of that, I feel that it takes a specific person to enjoy my presence, and I am always concerned that that person will not be in a given setting.
Interesting. This is a level of insecurity that you don't often put out to the world verbally.
I think I don't think I'm a very like insecure person overall, but I think it's very important to recognize our insecurities, and I'm plagued by them, as is everybody.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Our listeners are probably sitting in a little bit of surprise to hear you say what you're saying, because you present as uber confident and is it not cool to say uber anymore?
I can't say that on the podcast.
But you present as confident and really authentic. And when you allow that vulnerability to creep in, I think it makes you perfect.
Thanks. Yeah. So I think it was a very I would say life-changing trip for me.
Yeah.
And I got to make a bunch of great friends.
Do you stay in touch typically on your CISB trips? Do you stay in touch like digitally with?
Yeah, to some extent. Like I'm still in contact with a bunch of the kids from seminar, even though it's been like a month.
That's so cool.
But after an extended period of time, obviously, the relationship does to some extent degrade.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah.
What a important, I'm going to tie one more bow on this. What a really important lesson for you to have, though, at this time of your life, as you anticipate the next giant change coming your way this summer.
Yes, it did give me a lot more confidence to face moving to a different country and going to a new school and everything.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good for you.
Chris, what did you get up to?
So I think I shared with you for the first time and our listeners that as season 2 was wrapping, I had been accepted into a doctoral program for social work and started that program just over a month ago. So I am an official doctoral student now, and I love it. I think we joked we're both in this new academic era, right? And so yeah, I love it. It's been literally, well, in a formal sense, I've not been a formal student for almost 25 years. I've been out of graduate school for that long. And like you, I'm a believer that we're lifelong learners and there's so much but from a formal homework, paper writing, things due, it's been 25 years. And so entering that at the velocity that I entered it in produced all kinds of inspired insights about how comfortable I had been not being a student and getting into that mindset again of like due dates and homework. And obviously, even as adults, there are expectations on us, right? Like I need to do things for my job that have to be done at certain points of the week or month, what have you. But doing it for like a grade and similar to you, I think, interacting, it's a completely online and technically asynchronous program. And there are 10 of us in this cohort. And interacting with people on discussion boards and electronically is it trying to like figure out how does my personality translate into a discussion post or a reflection that I'm sharing with people. It gets you thinking, like, are people getting a sense of who I am in my writing? Like, how do I write in a doctoral way that's still authentic to who I am and how I speak?
I think that's so interesting that you desire in your academic pursuits to still represent your personality.
1,000%.
And I think that's very admirable. I feel like when I attempt to engage with academic matters in the pursuit of formality, I rob the thing that I'm creating of my personality.
Oh, yeah.
But I think in that choice to make what I'm creating devoid of personality, I am to some extent showing my personality through that desire to present something highly logical.
Yeah, because that's a part of your brand, right? You and I talk about brand all the time. I do my best work when I am fully leaned into who I am. Like I don't play a part. I don't role play well. I need to be me at all times and embrace that. And it's worked for me for 50 years now. So leaning into that in this academic part of my life is that much more important to me. So yeah, I started that. It's been a wild, like trying to just balance it and fit it in. I mean, it's stuff that you and your friends do all the time, having to navigate due dates and assignments and in theory.
Not very well.
Yeah, in theory. And I'm not somebody like in my personal life, I don't live by a whole lot of rules, like budgets, nah. Bed consistent bedtimes, nah, like none of that. But in the scholarly world, it is all production and expectations of time. So it's taken me a solid month to feel like my feet is under me and carve out time in the schedule to read and write and reflect. And I think that's what I'm also loving about the program so far. Unlike other academic programs I've done, they emphasize time to think, and that time to just sit with your thoughts is part of this journey. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah, it's cool.
So, looking forward, what are we excited about for this upcoming season?
Soren, there's so much we have planned. So we are gonna again follow the path that we went on with season 2, with having some guest episodes and then some time with you and I. Like right now, we heard some good feedback from listeners that they love other voices coming into the podcast, and they want to make sure they still get you and I chatting and bantering like we did through season 1. So we're going to do that. We've got some guests planned. I don't want to spoil too much, but some of the topics we've planned around some guests are we're going to continue the thread of advocacy, especially in the world we now have found ourselves in. We'll get back to that. We've got guests talking about transition to college life. It's going to be the What's Next with Soren episode. So I have some friends and colleagues here at the University of Maine that are going to come and chat about what does wellness and health look like in the college world and residential life and living in dorms. We've got guests planned on, how would I say this? Learning how to tell your story, learning how to polish what you show to the world. So we've got that. We're going to talk to some folks locally about Bangor Pride for Pride this year and the importance and the power of Pride. And then the other topic with the guests that's quickly coming to mind is welcoming folks with some lived experience with navigating their own mental health and what that journey has been like for them. Listeners have heard a lot from you and from I about experiences of our journeys. And so welcoming some other voices in the room to talk about that.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Yeah. And then you and I will have some time to chit chat about the state of the world that we're in.
Various other things, of course.
Yeah.
I think this next season is going to be very exciting, dynamic. Season 2, I feel we hit our stride, but Season 3, we're going to be running even faster.
Yeah. And I have mixed feelings about it, to be honest with you. Knowing that Season 3 will end as you graduate high school and get ready to leave.
Tough, yes. I know I'm excited.
Yeah, and those are part of my mixed feelings.
Yeah.
By that time, we would have done 30 episodes of this dang thing together. And it's like graduation in different ways of looking at it and just and transitions, right? Change. So yeah, I have mixed feelings about it. It's bittersweet.
The only thing that's constant is change.
I know. That's Inspired Insight, Soren Peterson. Yeah, I you're right. And it's awesome. Like I'm thrilled for what's happening. And who knows, maybe we'll do a season 3.5 on the road. The travel season.
And I think taking it back to our modern world rather than the future, what we're attempting to do here is becoming increasingly important as the sphere of politics and the social sphere around us becomes increasingly adversarial towards individuals who are attempting to advocate for human rights.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot's changed since we closed season 2.
Yes. When we had closed season 2, we knew the results of the federal election. but we had yet to see our delightful
The transition of
yeah,
power.
the transition of
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Yeah. And you and I have been talking about it since we've been in each other's company the last several days, right? Like it's hard not to talk about it. And
yeah.
thinking about the episode later this season around advocacy and voice and how you balance all that with the craziness of the world around us. Like it's it I don't quite have like the words to describe how it's felt living here in this country over the last, I'm curious, like when you were in Brazil, I'm always curious about what other countries say. Like were you the only American kid?
Yes.
So you're the American kid.
Uh-huh.
You introduce yourself. What's the very first thing that other youth from other countries say when they learn you're the American kid?
Okay.
Or do they?
Well, people outside of America know America for being consumerist, our production of various foods that are bad for you,
Yeah.
our current political instability, and like the cultural expectation of like nationalism.
Oh, yeah.
And I am not representative of the nationalism
No.
or our current state of politics. So it gave me an awesome opportunity to sort of critique the US as an outsider with other outsiders,
Yeah.
examining the system externally.
Yeah.
And what people's opinions are on what's happening in the country and what people know about American history. And honestly, it is astonishing to me that like the French girl knew more about American history than the vast majority of Americans do. The British girl also knew more about American history than the vast majority of Americans do. And so did one of the Argentinian girls.
Wow.
So it's kind of obscene to me to see that people outside of our country are forced to be like more educated on America than its own people because of how impactful America is globally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a big eye-opener as well.
It's funny, and you'll be my reality check here. There was a time where when Americans were traveling in certain countries, you could pack like extra, you were encouraged to pack like extra Levi jeans or whatever, because you could trade them, and people in other country would go gaga over these Americanized pop culture like icon products. Is that still the case, do you think?
For a lot of the people from South American countries, I noticed that it is like the fetishization of American commodities is still highly prevalent. But a lot of the kids in that were from the EU actually sort of had a resistance to American consumer products, whereas previously they didn't.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that you mentioned Levi jeans, because actually the Swedish guy, although he was very not okay with the fetishization of American commodities, still wore all American made clothing and embraced like American punk culture and really liked some of the American fashion movements that we see in our cities. Even though America's cultural impact has become increasingly disdained by individuals in certain countries, America's culture is still fetishized globally.
Yeah.
Like we are still, to some extent, put up on a pedestal, or at least our consumer products are put up on a pedestal.
Yeah. And and our listeners know that a million times more than I know about some of these, like the global cultural kind of differences. But I'm curious, like, what do youth from other countries think about what's happening politically here, knowing, and you and I were talking earlier, that some of their countries have seen similar movements of a pendulum swing to nationalist ideals.
Yes. In pretty much every country across the planet, populism is becoming increasingly prevalent.
Yeah.
We see this in Germany with the AfD. We see this in Argentina with the election of Milei. We see this in the UK with increasing racist rallies against immigration.
Yeah.
This is something that many countries struggle with. But as far as like America goes, our political sphere is more of a spectacle than all of these other countries, at least on a global stage,
Yeah.
because of how important it is. So a lot of the kids there were either disgusted with what was happening, or as a result of their political biases, very
Had empathy for.
had empathy. But also there was a boy from the UK that was very much on the far right in the UK. As a result of that, was in support of individuals like Donald Trump.
Really?
In America.
What were the other young people's reaction to that individual?
They were not pleased with him.
Yeah. I wouldn't imagine that because there's a piece of that that's, at least as the outsider, that feels like it's the antithesis of what CISV as an organization stands, like global villain.
Yeah,
right?
actually, there were multiple people, for example, the Swedish guy and the French girl, that I had conversations with where they were like, why the fuck is this guy here?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't
Yeah.
believe or espouse the core values of the organization.
Right. Like, feels like that kind of program, there's got to be a dotted line you're signing off on, whether physically or metaphorically. Like, I'm down for this. This is the kind of experience that I'm looking for. So, yeah, I would ask the same thing.
Apparently, ethno-nationalism appeals to all.
All. Yeah. Right. Wow. I'm glad, though. It really feels like this particular trip has left a really cool impact on you.
Yeah. It was so awesome. And it made me so excited to travel internationally.
Yeah.
Because all of these kids are just like kids where I am.
Yeah.
But arguably much more well-educated and interested in the world around them. And I think that's as a result of the selection bias of CISV.
Yeah.
But it was such a fantastic experience, and it made me so excited for my future of getting to meet hopefully hundreds of people like them.
Right. From all over.
Yeah.
You're going into that with such I would suggest a higher baseline of that kind of dynamic than most of the young people you're going to be first year student with, right?
Yeah.
Because you've traveled, oh my God, how many countries have you been to now? Like,
Demarcation of my privilege, but
yeah,
I surely over 20
yeah,
now.
yeah, and a lot of those have been with this program as you've done different.
Yeah. I've gone to 3 different countries.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So that's cool.
So-
That's cool. Yeah, it's kind of it's a nice, like, between the bookends of your senior year in high school to have this experience be right in the middle.
Yeah.
And then you came back and now you're like eyes on the prize to
Yeah.
June.
It was a really great way to end off my like formalized high school experience, I think, because it gave me an opportunity to literally remove myself from the world that I typically am living in and reflect on the future, the current state of reality, and myself, how I interact with others.
Yeah.
So
And developing some confidence in that.
yeah.
That's cool. That's so cool. Any other thoughts you want to share about the state of our political world here in the United States? I know we've been talking a lot about it. Anything you feel like you can or want to share with our listeners?
I think as this first episode goes out, I don't know how dire things are going to get.
Yeah.
But just don't allow the things happening around you to wear down your resistance.
Yeah.
And surround yourselves with different ideas, both from like-minded individuals and from individuals who are not necessarily like-minded, and analyze and examine your own worldview so that you can change the world that you are viewing with it.
Yeah. I love that. I love it. Yeah, I could not agree more. It feels like, I mean, we've been talking about it a lot of late, so it's definitely top of mind. And for me, it's that finding a balance of staying informed and aware and just protecting myself and the people I care about, who I know all too well the harm that comes from immersing yourself in the 24/7 stuff that's flying our way, and making sure that we are, to your point, creating space for where your voice, how you show up with that voice, and making sure you preserve your voice so you don't go hoarse or lose it. Yeah, there's too much at stake right now.
Indeed. Well, on that note, I would like to conclude our first episode of season 3.
Yeah, we're rolling.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you guys listening to the rest of season 3.
Stick around, y'all. We got some good stuff for you.
I've been Soren Peterson.
Chris McLaughlin, thank you.
Have a great week.
The Inspired Insights podcast has been brought to you by Inspired Consulting Group, LLC.
Edited and produced by Amanda Seidel and Derek Harder.
Marketing support for the Inspired Insights podcast by Elizabeth Keenan. Music by Derek Harder.
Please visit www.inspiredcg.com to learn more. Copyright 2025, all rights reserved.